Hello and welcome. You're watching Ask PQ on Bloomberg Quint. I am Agam Vakil. If you got questions on equity, this show is perfect for you. Send your questions to us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, or WhatsApp, and you can call us on 022-454-04141 or mail us at askpq@bloombergquint.com. Just make sure you do add the AskPQ hashtag. But before we get into individual queries, let me quick take a look at the markets. And well, the Sensex and the Nifty are currently trending flat. It's exactly where we left off yesterday, with the Nifty at around 10,790 and the Sensex at 35,869. The Sensex is doing its best to move about the mark of that mark, but we're going to have to wait and watch about how that appears. The Nifty Bank is down as much as 0.5%, and I'll come to the reasons in just a bit, but for now, underperforming the benchmark indices. Let's take a look at your broader markets too. And with your mid-cap and the small-cap indices are actually outperforming the benchmarks, considering a 0.5% gain for the mid-cap index and a near 1% gain for the small-cap index. So keep an eye on these indices as we move into, well, the final half of this trading week. But as far as your stocks are concerned, we're talking about some of the gainers in today's day of trade, with both the OMCs, IOC and BPCL advancing quite substantially, up as much as well over 4%. Yes Bank has picked up now comfortably above the mark of 220 at this point, up also 3% right now. And we also have seen some gains in several other stocks like Indiabulls Housing Finance, Vedanta, and of course BPCL is not too far behind HBCL and IOC, so that also sees some amount of gains. But on the losing end, of course, among the top of the list is Kotak Mahindra Bank. That's down 3.6%, and also the reason why we have seen relative weakness in the Nifty Banking Index, which is down 0.5%. But what is also curious is Reliance Industries, now down 1.5%. We have seen weakness in HDFC Bank as well as Titan Company and GAIL, but I reckon if at all there are two stocks which may be bearing down on the indices at this point in time, it will be Reliance Industries and HDFC. But on that note, I'm going to get in our two experts of the day. We have Sharmila Joshi, who is an independent investment advisor, and Ruchit Jain of Angel Broking, joining us to take us through all your queries at this point in time. Well, let's move on and take the first one up then. And we have a long-term query in focus right now. We have Prasad, who writes to us on WhatsApp. And his question is actually very straightforward. Is it time to accumulate rights? And the other one is HDFC Life. Well, two varied stocks out there. But Sharmila, good afternoon. I'll take this one up with you. Do you think it's a good time to accumulate rights and HDFC Life at this point in time?
Well, I would agree with HDFC Life, because I think that all said and done, HDFC, first of all, a very strong brand name. Also, I think life insurance, the penetration levels, the way they are in the country, they can go up. That outlook is also good. So I think it makes sense to start sort of accumulating HDFC Life. With the rights, I'm not so sure, because honestly, where real estate is concerned, and this is a company that does depend upon the rentals that they get from the real estate property to sort of make money. I think there's a lot more to happen in the real estate sector in terms of clarity for in terms of regulations and the segregation of real estate region-wise, etc. So I think once all those things are in place, probably a product like a rights will look interesting. So I think at this point in time, it's best to look at HDFC Life or some of the other large cap stocks which are now available to you cheaper because of the recent correction.
Okay, fair enough. HDFC Life, of course, for now, it's showing some amount of strength too, so keep an eye on that one. We have another interesting question from Apu, and it's on Arvind. And he wants to know whether or not Arvind can be bought into after the significant weakness the stock has seen of late. I'm looking at its relative strength index, 14-day relative strength index. It's actually gone well below the mark of 30. It does certainly look oversold, but it looked oversold about 2 weeks ago and has fallen from those levels too. So the real question is, can we do some bottom fishing at this point in time, currently at 74.5? Ruchit, let me take this question up with you. There's intense selling pressure in Arvind, but would you go so far as to suggest that it may not be a bad bet to buy Arvind at this point in time based on the kind of, based on the way you're seeing the risk-reward ratio?
A very good afternoon, Agam. I think Arvind, if we compare within this space, it has been continuously forming a low top, low bottom structure, and as of now, there are no signs of reversal. Yes, he quite rightly pointed out that the RSI is in oversold zone, it is below 30. But no, let me just tell you that there are many instances wherein the RSI tends to stay oversold and the stock continues to grind lower. It is not the oversold momentum, oversold reading of the RSI which leads to a pullback move. But if there is any kind of positive divergence on the RSI when it is below 30, then only one should look to trade for a pullback move. As of now, there are no such positive divergence seen in Arvind Limited. And we have seen that in last 2-3 trading sessions, in spite of many of the mid-cap names showing a pullback move, this stock is continuously going lower. So until we get any such positive divergence in this oversold scenario, I would recommend to avoid and do not buy Arvind for any pullback move.
In that case, Ruchit, would you go ahead and short, or you want to avoid a trade completely here?
I think I would rather avoid the trade completely here because the risk-reward ratio for creating fresh shorts would not be much favorable. Since the month of early Jain, that is in last 2 months, we have already seen a correction from 105 levels to 75 now. So I don't think the risk-reward ratio is much favorable to go to create any fresh short positions. But yes, for any other traders who are already holding some short positions in this stock from high levels, they should continue to hold on.
Okay, Ruchit, we have one more question, and I think this question was asked to us about 2 days ago, but I'm still going to take it up. It's from Reinvent. It's on KPIT Technologies. Reinvent had actually sold KPIT Technologies at around 95. As we all know, it's currently at 108. So, well, the viewer is making a significant potential loss at this point in time. The question really is, what can be done? Ruchit, again, can this situation be salvaged? Well, the viewer had sold at 95. Do you think that the viewer should cover the shorts at this and book a loss, or could be held on?
Yes, KPIT has seen significant down moves in the last few trading sessions, or in fact in last 2 weeks. But if I look at the chart, then the 20 days exponential moving average on the daily chart is a crucial point which would be a deciding factor whether this stock would move higher after this sharp correction. As of now, the prices are trading below that moving average, so the trend still continues to be negative. I would recommend him to continue holding the short positions till we see any closing about 20 days exponential moving average. From current levels, this moving average is placed around 113 kind of levels in cash segment. So place a stop somewhere around 114 and continue to hold the shorts.
All right, there you have it. That's your view on KPIT Technologies. And quite naturally, we will have a lot of questions on Kotak Mahindra Bank now. So let's do a fundamental and a technical check here. Sharmila, Kotak Mahindra Bank has come off to a certain extent, but that is largely on account of block deals. The real question, everyone is asking is whether or not this block deal matters at all because of the long-term prospects of the bank. That's one. Secondly, even when such a large block deal happened, it was completely absorbed. That is what a lot of analysts are suggesting. What is your view? Would you buy into Kotak Mahindra Bank at these levels?
Well, as a retail investor, I think it's best to wait on the sidelines. Yes, I think that this, as you said, there was a large block deal, and it seemed that most of it was absorbed very quickly. But let's not forget that we need to see what are the FI buying numbers within that and FI to domestic buying numbers in that. Because very honestly, I mean, these such large trades are just done on the screen because that's the requirement, but the blocks are sort of largely closed offline. So, you sort of already know that there's going to be a large seller, and then you just cross the deal when, trading starts. So it's not really out there floating for people to sort of get part of the action. So to my mind, the concerns around Kotak Bank from a retail perspective still stay, because we don't know what is the route the promoter is going to take to really bring their equity holding down, what price is going to happen at, who's going to be, in general, whether they're going to get a large investor to come in or sell in the market, issue more equity. So we don't have answers to those questions. So till we get clarity on that, I think it's just better to wait on the sidelines. That said, of course, I think there is no concern on the bank in terms of the banking parameters. So I think from that point, everything checks, but it's just that you need clarity on this issue.
Okay, fair enough. Some very valid points also made by Sharmila, because we're still unclear about how Uday Kotak's stake and the pairing of it is going to go down. Of course, it's the matter is still sub judice. But let me take a technical check here while we're at it. Ruchit, how are you reading cues here?
So, irrespective of what gap down we have seen today, if I look at last 3 months data, then the stock has just consolidated in the range of 1200 to 1300 on the higher side. This consolidation just seemed to be a time-wise correction. There are no negative signs as of now. And we usually, whenever see gap up or gap down openings on based of any news, the follow-up move post the gap down openings is what matters more. So today, although we have seen a gap down opening, but there is no follow-up sell-off or any kind of panic selling that is witnessed in the stock. So this is clear indication. There's, I think, this consolidation phase or this time-wise correction would continue for next few weeks more, and 1200 to 1300, this range would continue to play out. So any existing long positions, until this 1200 support is not broken, this trend is not negative, but just a time-wise correction.
Okay, well, on that note, let's move on and talk about Voltas. Then we have Vishal Sanghvi, who wants a 3 to 5 year view on Voltas. Again, at around 525, it's certainly come off from levels of around 600 in 2018. Sharmila, at least 2018 didn't really turn out to be a great time for the entire industry, not just Voltas. But from a 3 to 5 year perspective, how are you positioned on Voltas?
As you said it, the last year has not been particularly great for the entire sector in the sort of the air cooling part of the market. One has been, of course, the fact that summers were not so bad, and I think another negative would be that we've had a really long winter this time. So I think a lot more people would sort of delay buying a cooling unit. That said, Voltas is also in other businesses. It's not only in selling air conditioners. So they do have an industrial bit also with them, and they take on larger projects. And so I think you need to look at it from that point of view. So I think, when you're looking at all their businesses and you're taking that 3 to 5 year sort of perspective, I think that this is definitely a stock that you can buy, or if you have it, continue to hold. So whether it's a Blue Star or whether it's a Voltas, I would think that these could be great prices, because both have corrected very significantly from their higher levels. And I'm not talking of 52 week, but at one time Voltas was sort of running away with it and trading far ahead of its valuation. But now I think sort of reality has come back to valuation. So now this is a good price to either buy or to continue to hold Voltas, especially if your outlook is 3 to 5 years.
All right, Sharmila, let's talk about Dilip Buildcon then. We have a question from Ashish Chitte. He wants a long-term view. To just give our viewers a background of Dilip Buildcon, it was one of the star movers in 2018. In fact, at one point in time in 2018 itself, it was trading near the mark of 1200. From there, it has come off. It's currently at 435. But I must also mention that in 2019, it had hit levels of as much as 300 rupees per share, and it has recovered, and it is currently trading at 435. Again, Sharmila, we speak to the management from time to time, but it does get very confusing for investors. If you could give us your point of view, where do you stand on this one?
Well, I think that sort of in December 2018, if you remember, there was a lot of talk that we are going to see private capex pick up, and there's going to be a lot more orders coming by way of private infra and those infra projects, etc. And we haven't really seen that materialize yet in the kind of numbers companies have reported. So I think the point being that while yes, you could argue that this is a good level, since as you said, the price of the stock has become 1/3 of what it used to be at. I don't really have too much clarity at this point in time in terms of how things will pan out for them. So, for instance, where in the case of Voltas, we were reasonably certain, looking at their order book, etc., that now could be a good time to sort of buy or at least continue to hold what you have. I wouldn't be so sanguine about Dilip Buildcon, honestly. So I think that if you don't have it, definitely don't enter this. Not just Dilip Buildcon, but a whole host of stocks within that space. My advice would be to stay out for now.
Okay, the advice is to avoid Dilip Buildcon at this point in time. Ashish, I hope you've taken the advice. All right, well, on that note, we move on and take a view on HDFC Life. Now, we've already spoken to Sharmila about HDFC Life, so I'm going to take a technical view here because we still have one or two more viewers who want to know a little more about that. As I've mentioned, HDFC Life very recently went below the mark of around 350, and now it has recovered to come and close somewhere around, not close, but it is currently trading around 363 odd levels. Ruchit, if you can also offer your comments on HDFC Life and how you see it fundamentally. I know that you may not have data, at least back to historically, because it's very recently listed, but still, your view on whatever we have so far.
Yeah, so Agam, due to lack of data, it won't be possible to form any long-term view. But if I look at the recent history, then since the month of October, this range of 340 to 350 has acted as a support, and whenever the price came near this range, we have seen some buying momentum coming in. Take October 2018, there were two instances when the stock hit a low of around 350 and again shown a pullback move. In the last week of January, again the stock hit a low around 345 and a pullback move. And even in yesterday's trading session, similar lows were seen from where one pullback move is seen. So this 340 to 350 range, this seems to be a good short-term support for the stock. And I think till this range is held on, one can sense a pullback move again towards the higher end or towards its next set of resistances, which is placed around 380 and then 400. So I would believe that from a short-term perspective, we could see a pullback move in HDFC Life, and any long positions, if taken from a near-term perspective, it should be held on with a stop loss below 340.
All right. On that note, I'm going to take a question from Sumant B as well. He says he's a long-term investor, but he's making losses in one stock that I am not quite well privy with, but Hindustan Aeronautics at 1190 and NBCC at 69. His question is, should he switch or average? NBCC, at which he's entered at 69, it's currently at 52. And if he can bring up Hindustan Aeronautics as well, HAL, he's entered into at 1190 and it's currently at 670. Sharmila, Sumant is clearly late in booking losses now, but how do you think he should go about both these positions?
So, well, this is a slightly tricky question. First off, I don't know really too much about HAL, so I won't comment on that. But, where both HAL and NBCC both are concerned, I think, definitely they have one thing in common. They're sort of niche plays, and especially HAL, I think, the kind of orders that they're likely to get or their execution capabilities, there wouldn't be too many companies within the Indian context which would have that. So I think from that perspective, if you're a longer term investor, maybe, that is a point worth considering. NBCC used to be a company that I used to like, given the fact that, as I said, they have the niche operations and they are going to get first rights to sort of develop a lot of space that is held by government companies. And so, especially in Delhi and surrounding areas, and, that used to always be the USP. But, this whole recent news of them bidding for assets of JP Infra, etc., hasn't really gone down too well with me, because I really don't know why they would want assets of JP Infra and whether they should be in this bidding game at all. So I like the company for their existing order book and the fact that they're niche and that they can do well in that. And this is not maybe a price to sell, but this has been a recent negative for me. And as I said, HAL I don't know too much about. So, as I said, it's a slightly tricky question for me.
Okay, all right. That's your view on NBCC, of course, and it certainly has been of late under some pressure, and a lot of long-term investors are also, well, really under stress when it comes to NBCC. But we move on and to take the next query on Yes Bank. It's from DN Bhattacharya, and he actually wants a view on Yes Bank, keeping the next week's expiry in mind. He actually has an options play in mind too. I'm not very certain how liquid Yes Bank's options are. That said, its futures certainly does have a lot of liquidity. It's currently trading at 223. Some strength seen. In fact, it's currently trading at day's highs. Its futures, again, seeing some amount of traction today. Ruchit, come in on Yes Bank. Your view on Yes Bank, keeping next week's expiry in mind?
I think, Agam, if I look at the second week of February, then certainly till the second week of February, there was a lot of volatility seen in Yes Bank. Primarily, it was backed by some of the news that were continuously flowing in. But since last 4 or 5 trading sessions, this stock has now turned into a narrow range, and this is where we see a fall in IVs. Firstly, it is the last week of the expiry where we see some reduction in the time value of options, and also now since from a high volatility, the stock has turned into a consolidation phase, so the IVs would also drop. So if is long in some far out of the money or much out of the money call options, then I think it does not make sense to hold on to this option. If it's an at the money option, then I would recommend him to hold on. But likely the stock is likely to consolidate in the range of 227 on the high side and 210 on the lower side. So I think it would be a consolidation week for Yes Bank going ahead. Only if it gives a breakout about 227, then some momentum could be expected.
All right. Well, on that note, we move into another very interesting question. We have a question from Lakshmi Kumar. He's bought Reliance Nippon AMC at 150 rupees per share. His question is, should I book profits or hold? Now, of course, the underlying development here is that there's a possibility that the ADG group may sell some of their stake in their AMC to Nippon. In order to recover some of the dues so that they can, pay off some of the debt in some of the other group companies. And which is why, should they be able to sell that 43% stake to Nippon? Well, it could turn out to be a positive not only for, perhaps our NAM, but also, the entire group for that matter. Because this stake is valued at around 4,000 rupees per share, so it could be critical. But Sharmila, let me take this one up with you. Reliance Nippon, Lakshmi Kumar is bought at 150. It's currently at 200 rupees per share. Would you recommend booking profits at this point?
Well, given the kind of news flow that you have surrounding this stock, I think it makes sense to stay put. Because, as you said rightly, if Nippon does buy them out, then I think it's definitely good news for the entire group. And yes, so I think you have like a 4-week sort of a window. Just hang in there and just see how this whole story develops, because the courts have given Mr. Ambani 4 weeks to settle his dues with Vodafone, and I think you will see a lot of action in some of the assets that they own if they try to monetize them. So just watch the space, I think, for 4 weeks.
Okay, well, there you have it. The advice here to you, Lakshmi, is that to hold on and wait and watch, because you're already in a profit at this point in time. Well, moving on to the rapid fire segment then, and once again, I'm going to request our experts to keep their answers as short as possible so as to accommodate as many queries as possible. And the query then comes in from Akash Yadav, again, a fundamental view on Abbott India and GMM Pfaudler. Sharmila, this one is for you. Do you like either?
Abbott, yes. I'm sorry, I don't track the other.
All right. Okay, so Abbott, yes. Akash, you can hold on to it. But GMM Pfaudler, Sharmila doesn't have coverage. Moving on to the next one. Kaushik Das needs a short-term view on PTC India. Well, let's pull up PTC India and where it's trading at. We can take this one up with Ruchit. It's currently at 78.65. And the viewer, of course, was asking about the rally that they have seen this week. Not evident right now. Ruchit, PTC India, your view?
The stock did move higher on Wednesday, but volumes were not quite high on this up move. So I think this is just a pullback move. one more pullback could be seen towards 86, 87, but any long positions, if they're there, look to exit around those levels.
Okay, Arvind, Ruchit, one more your way. Arvind wants to know if he can go long or short on ICICI Bank.
I would recommend have a buy on dips approach in ICICI Bank. The stock has very strong support, around 333. There is a very strong support. So any declines towards 345, go long with stop loss below 330.
Okay, Sharmila, Harish wants to know, he actually wants a long-term view on 3 stocks. One is Bhansali Engineering, second one is SpiceJet, and the third one is Savaria Consumer.
Very honestly, I don't track any of these stocks.
All right, hazard a guess perhaps on aviation in general, Sharmila?
So that would be a negative because I'm not really impressed with the kind of monthly numbers that we are getting. As well as the overall situation with crude prices going up, etc. So I think that this is the wrong time to be invested in aviation. I'm quite negative on this space.
Okay, I think we can take just one more question on JSW Steel from Chinmay. Ruchit, Chinmay is holding JSW Steel at 263. It's currently at 280. What would your advice be? Book profits or hold on?
I would recommend to continue holding the stock, keep a stop loss below 259, which is not much below your cost price, and wait for a pullback towards 295 to book profits.
Okay, there you have it, guys. We've run out of time on the show, so I'm going to take a moment to thank both our experts, Sharmila and Ruchit, for helping our viewers with all their queries. That is all that we have on this edition of Ask BQ. Remember, we're just a tweet, a post, or a call away, so keep your queries coming in, and we promise to address all of them through our shows. For all the previous episodes, visit our YouTube channel or website, bloombergquint.com. Stay tuned. Up next is Power Lunch.